Hello, friend, you who are listening to these heartfelt words. Has there ever been a time, after a long, dragging day, when you drove up to your front door, turned off the engine, but just sat there in the car for 10 whole minutes? Everything around is silent, save for the ticking sound of the cooling engine. You stare at the steering wheel or gaze into the void through the windshield, and you just don't want to step out of the car. It's not because you don't love your home, nor is it because you don't cherish the family waiting inside, but simply because you feel you have absolutely no energy left. You dread having to put on the mask of a strong person, a successful person, or a perfect pillar of the family. That feeling is not just muscle fatigue from a day of labor. It is a weariness from the depths of the soul. We, those in our 30s, 40s, or 50s, often carry nameless burdens on our shoulders. We are taught to be resilient, to strive without ceasing. But there are days when work pressure, the worry of daily bread, and even the wavering of faith make us ask ourselves, what am I striving for? Why does it feel more lonely and meaningless the further I go? Even, let's be honest, in the weakest moments, a thought flashes through your mind. If only I could sleep a very long sleep and never have to wake up again, to escape all this noise and pressure. If today you are carrying that heavy heart, I want to tell you, you are not alone, and more importantly, you are not weak or a failure as you might think. Because even the greatest figures in the Bible, those used by God to make history, also had moments where they wanted to collapse and ask to die, just like you. Today, let me tell you the story of Elijah, a great prophet, a hero of faith, and his journey to find life again beneath a dry broom tree. This story is found in the Old Testament, First Book of Kings, chapter 19. To give you a picture, Elijah was not a weak man. On the contrary, he had just experienced the most brilliant peak of his life. On Mount Carmel, he single-handedly confronted and defeated 450 prophets of Baal. At that moment, Elijah was a symbol of strength, a man filled with grace, a man who knew no fear. But life often teases us like that. Right after the peak of glory comes the abyss of despair. When he heard that Queen Jezebel swore to take his life, that warrior suddenly crumbled. Fear took over. He ran away. He ran straight into the desert, leaving all glory behind. The Bible describes that moment so nakedly and heartbreakingly that we see ourselves in it. 1 Kings chapter 19, verse 4 records that, "He came to a broom bush, sat down under it, and prayed that he might die. 'I have had enough, Lord,' he said. 'Take my life. I am no better than my ancestors.'" Lord, I have had enough. That sentence sounds so bitter. Is that the cry of the heart that you have silently screamed in your sleepless nights? Elijah fell into a state that modern psychology calls burnout, total exhaustion. He saw himself as a failure. He compared himself to his predecessors and felt inferior. He felt utterly alone in this world, and the only solution he could think of was death. Why does a strong person collapse so quickly? Perhaps because we often mistakenly believe that strong faith means never knowing fatigue. But my friend, Elijah was human, and you were human. We have the limits of flesh and blood. When the body is exhausted, the spirit will surely decline. But the most wonderful thing, the thing that moves me most in this story, is not Elijah's weakness, but how God responded to that desperate plea. Did God appear in a thundercloud and scold him? Did God say, "Hey, Elijah, why are you so cowardly? Stand up right now"? No, God didn't do that. God does not preach philosophy to an exhausted soul. The Bible continues in verse 5 and verse 6. Then he lay down under the bush and fell asleep. All at once, an angel touched him and said, "Get up and eat." He looked around, and there by his head was some bread baked over hot coals and a jar of water. He ate and drank, and then lay down again. Listen carefully to this detail. God let him sleep. The angel woke him up only to eat a hot cake and drink a sip of cool water. Then God let him sleep again. It is a tenderness that brings tears to the eyes. God's solution for a mental crisis is sometimes incredibly practical. He takes care of your hungry stomach and your dark circles first. So, what is the lesson for us? If today you are sitting under the broom tree of your life, learn from God's healing regimen. First, allow yourself to stop. Don't try to solve macro problems when you're burned out. Holiness sometimes begins with a good night's sleep. Today, put down the phone earlier. Eat a decent meal. Sleep a deep sleep. God does not ask you to save the world 24/7. If a great prophet like Elijah needed to sleep, what right do you have to force yourself to stay awake forever? Second, don't catastrophize the problem. When tired, the brain is a master deceiver. It will whisper, "You're finished. There's no way out." Don't believe your emotions late at night. Eat God's bread, drink His water, rest enough, and tomorrow, when the sun rises, you will see things are not as bad as you thought. And finally, learn to listen to the gentle whisper. God is not in the noisy storm. God is present in the gentle silence. Spend 10 minutes each day, sitting still, not asking, not complaining. That is when you recharge your energy from God. My dear friends, the broom tree where you are collapsing today is not a grave burying your life. It is just a rest stop. Your exhaustion is a reminder that it is time for you to return, to be loved and cared for by the Father. Before ending, I want to give you a beautiful promise from the Bible. The Word of God in the book of Isaiah, chapter 40, verses 29 and 31 says, "He gives strength to the weary and increases the power of the weak. But those who hope in the Lord will renew their strength. They will soar on wings like eagles. They will run and not grow weary. They will walk and not faint." I wish for you, tonight, a very peaceful sleep. Sleep well, for the bread and water of God's grace are already prepared for tomorrow. Peace be with you and your family.
Please click like and subscribe to my channel for the new, interesting stories. Thank you so much.